Leo, let's not sugarcoat this. Your sister betrayed you in secret, and someone else in your family helped her do it. If that hits a nerve, it's probably because it's not just a theory. It's a vibration you've already been sensing for a while. And if you found yourself here, watching this video at this exact moment in your life, I want you to know it's not an accident. Something greater is guiding you. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to feel seen. Because when betrayal comes from blood, it cuts differently. Welcome to eternal mindfulness. You've stepped into a space where astrology isn't just surface-level predictions, it's soul work. And this moment right here? It's not about entertainment. It's about recognition. This is where your intuition finally meets validation. You see, Leo, loyalty is practically written into your DNA. You give it generously, you expect it naturally. But today's message brings a truth that isn't easy to accept. Not everyone raised with you walks the path beside you. Sometimes, the person you trusted most, the one who shared your childhood, your laughter, your memories, can carry a secret that shatters everything. Your sister didn't act alone. There's someone else. Another family member you probably respected, trusted, maybe even leaned on when you started to feel like something was off. But that gut feeling you had, the one you kept pushing aside in the name of love or keeping the peace, it was right. And this video, this exact momentous, the universe telling you, stop ignoring what you feel. Start standing in what you know. So breathe. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You're awake. The reason this betrayal hurts so deeply isn't just because of who it came from, it's because of how deeply you loved. You showed up. You opened your arms. And in return, you got silence, secrets, and maybe even gaslighting when you started asking questions. But Leo, I need you to understand something critical. The way they acted was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their fear. Of their shadow. Of their inability to rise to the light you naturally radiate. So what now? Now we listen. We feel. We stop pretending everything's okay when it's not. And most importantly, we don't lash out, we level up. That's what this space is for. That's what this video is for. Because you, Leo, are not here to prove anything to anyone. You're here to reclaim your power. Quietly. Boldly. Authentically. Before we move deeper into what's really happening, take a moment. Ask yourself, why now? Why is this truth unfolding at this very point in your story? The answer might surprise you, but it will free you. And while you're here, pause and anchor this moment. I'd be honored if you'd share in the comments below. I feel the truth. I am ready to reclaim my light. Sometimes, that one sentence is enough to shift your whole energy field. And who knows, your words might be the mirror someone else needs today too. Let me also take a moment to say thank you genuinely. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Thank you for supporting this space with every like, every comment, every share, and every moment you choose to stay with me. Your presence here keeps eternal mindfulness alive. It allows messages like this one to reach others who feel lost, alone, or unsure of what their intuition is trying to say. And believe me when I say this, you're going to want to stay with me until the very last minute of this video. What the universe is revealing today is not just information, it's an awakening. Now let's begin. The truth is rising, and it's time for you to rise with it. Leo, betrayal rarely knocks at the front door. It slides in quietly, sometimes through people who once held your hand when you were afraid of the dark. That's why this part of the story hits so hard. It's not a tale of enemies. It's a story of people you once prayed for, laughed with, and maybe even sacrificed for. And now, one of them, your sister, has placed a trap where you least expected it, right inside the walls you called home. It's a different kind of grief when betrayal comes wrapped in childhood memories. You don't just lose trust, you lose the version of your past you thought was safe. That's the wound most people don't talk about. It's the moment you replay birthdays, family dinners, vacations, and wonder, was any of that real? And when you realize she didn't do it alone, when you find out another relative stood beside her, maybe not with words, but with silence or silent approval, that fracture runs even deeper. It's not just a betrayal of affection. It's a betrayal of your entire emotional architecture. See, trust isn't built in declarations. It's built in years of quiet consistency. And when someone so close violates that, it doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your compass. You start to question your own judgment. You wonder, did I miss the signs? Was I naive? But let me tell you something that might bring your breath back. Being trusting is not a flaw. Being open-hearted is not a weakness. You weren't foolish for believing in them, you were brave for loving with your whole soul. There's something deeply sacred about the realization that not everyone who shares your blood shares your spirit. It's humbling. It's painful. But strangely enough, it's also freeing. Because once that illusion falls, you stop asking broken people to carry your light. You stop shrinking yourself to fit the room they've grown comfortable in. And that is when healing actually begins, not with revenge, not with confrontation, but with reclaiming your emotional center. In astrology, Leo rules the heart. And not just romantically, Leo represents courage, devotion, and the inner child's pure joy. So when that heart is pierced by betrayal, it shakes your core. But Leo is also ruled by the sun. And the sun never stays hidden for long. Even when clouds gather, it remains behind the veil, constant and unbothered. That's the metaphor here. The betrayal didn't dim your light. It just made you more aware of who can't stand the brightness. Maybe the deepest wound isn't what was done, it's who did it. But healing isn't about forgetting or pretending. It's about learning to love yourself enough to stop chasing people who chose to step out of alignment with you. There's a kind of holy release in realizing you don't have to convince anyone to be loyal. You don't have to beg for their support. And the moment you stop doing that, the right people begin to arrive, people who don't need convincing, people who love you without angles or secret agreements. I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever trusted someone in your family with your whole heart only to realize they were not standing in your corner? If you've been there, write your zodiac sign in the comments. Say it out loud. Let yourself be witnessed. Because one of the most healing things you can do is to name the pain. Not to dwell in it, but to take away its power to hide. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity. When you begin to see the full picture, not the version filtered through hope or habit, but the truth, you begin to rebuild not just your trust in others, but your trust in yourself. And that, Leo, is where your real power starts to return. Not in what they did to you, but in what you choose to do with it. Leo, let's get one thing straight, this wasn't your fault. Not even close. What happened didn't unfold because you were too trusting, too open, too available, or too radiant. It happened because some people, yes, even the ones closest to you, couldn't handle your light. And instead of growing beside it, they chose to resent it. That's a hard pill to swallow, especially when it's your own sister or a family member you've known your whole life. But this part of your journey isn't about blame. It's about truth. And reclaiming the power that was taken from you by confusion, guilt, or second-guessing your own intuition. When you begin to see that their betrayal was more about their internal battle than it was about your actions, something shifts. That shift isn't forgiveness, not yet. It's clarity. And clarity is power. From a self-healing perspective, understanding the motive behind someone's betrayal isn't excusing them, it's breaking the spell they cast over your worth. You see, people who are drowning in insecurity often lash out at the ones who seem to breathe easily in their own skin. They don't envy what you have. They envy who you are when no one's watching. Astrologically, Leo rules identity, authenticity, and creative expression. You don't just walk into a room, you light it up. And that kind of presence? It either awakens others or threatens them. Your sister, the one who should have celebrated your glow, probably felt like it left her in shadow. But instead of using your success as a mirror for her own growth, she projected her own pain outward. And your relative, the one who joined her? They likely didn't betray you out of loyalty to her. They aligned themselves with what felt easier, safer, or more powerful in the moment. That's the illusion of control, the idea that by standing with someone who throws stones, you won't get hit by one yourself. But truth doesn't stay hidden forever. Energetically, this is what we call the moon phase in tarot, a time when illusions look like truth, and jealousy wears the mask of closeness. This card reminds us that what's kept in the dark will always try to suppress what shines in the daylight. But illusions don't last. They dissolve when you're brave enough to look at things without emotional filters, when you realize that not every hug is honest and not every smile means safety. Understanding this doesn't erase the hurt. But it does restore your sense of direction. When we stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "What's been unresolved in them?" we take the weight off our own shoulders. And in doing so, we open a door for emotional sovereignty. In spiritual psychology, this is the turning point where the victim becomes the witness. You stop internalizing other people's chaos as your burden and start observing it for what it really is, unprocessed pain wearing your name as a disguise. This is where healing begins, not with confrontation or explanation, but with acknowledgement. That is your soul reclaiming ground. And the universe has been leaving you signs along the way. Seeing the numbers 2 or 7 repeatedly. They often show up when hidden truths are on the brink of emerging and when your spirit is preparing to speak its truth out loud. If blue has been appearing around you more often, whether in dreams, in the clothes you're drawn to, or in nature, it's no coincidence. Blue resonates with the throat chakra, the energy center of expression. You're being called to release the silence and stand in your voice. If any of this resonates, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're finally breaking out of someone else's narrative. And now, your energy is shifting back into your hands where it always belonged. The illusion is lifting. And you, Leo, are just getting started. There's something powerful about those quiet moments when your body reacts before your mind catches up. A pit in your stomach. A dream that repeats for no reason. A sudden pause in a conversation that leaves you wondering what wasn't said. Leo, you've always had strong instincts born under the sign ruled by the sun. Your energy is naturally attuned to light, truth, and the subtle shifts around you. But like so many of us, you might have chosen to override those signals. You gave the benefit of the doubt. You assumed love meant loyalty. You trusted, not because you were naive, but because you wanted to believe the people you held close deserved that trust. Now, the energy is shifting. The truth you sensed is beginning to surface. Not as a crash, but as a slow, deliberate unraveling. Like a curtain being pulled back just enough to let in a sliver of daylight, then a little more, and a little more, until everything that once hid in shadow stands clearly in front of you. That's the thing about truth, it doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it arrives in whispers. A detail you weren't supposed to hear. A change in someone's tone. An energy that doesn't match their words. The universe has been gently nudging you for a while now. Through signs. Through repetition. Through that quiet voice inside you that said, something's off. And if no one else saw it, or worse, if they made you feel irrational for sensing it, this moment is your confirmation. You weren't imagining it. You were awakening to what was real. In tarot, this is the realm of the High Priestess. She is not loud. She is not confrontational. She doesn't chase answers, she attracts clarity. The High Priestess lives in the in-between, between silence and revelation, between what is hidden and what is ready to be known. Her presence in this story signals that the time for full awareness is approaching. The facts may not all be laid out yet. You may not have every message, every confession, every proof. But you don't need them. What you know in your bones is already enough. This isn't about accusation. It's about alignment. When your soul knows something is wrong, when your body tenses at the sound of someone's voice, when you walk into a room and feel the air shift, it matters. Energy doesn't lie, even when people do. And part of reclaiming your power is recognizing that your intuition is not some soft suggestion, it's sacred navigation. It's the compass your higher self has been trying to hand you, over and over, even when you weren't ready to listen. That readiness? It's here now. The more you allow yourself to believe what you feel, the more the universe begins rearranging circumstances so the truth becomes undeniable. That's the beautiful part. The more you listen to your inner knowing, the less effort it takes to uncover what's real. Truth starts showing up without being chased. Conversations unfold. People reveal themselves. You stop asking questions you already know the answers to, and instead start making choices based on what feels aligned. If you've ever had that moment where something felt off, but you talk yourself out of it only to find out later that you were right all along, this part is for you. And I invite you, right now, to name that knowing. Not for anyone else's validation, but for your own healing. Say it in the comments, my intuition is sacred. Say it for the version of you who doubted. Say it for the times no one believed you. Say it because honoring your truth is the first step in rewriting your story. You're not here to explain yourself anymore. You're here to evolve. And the truth you've been feeling? It's not just knocking, it's already in the room. When you're hurt, especially by someone close, your instinct might be to react quickly. To speak up, to defend yourself, to call it out loud and clear. And Leo, that reaction makes perfect sense. Your sign carries fire, boldness, a deep sense of justice. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to strike back. It's to stand still. To center yourself. Because not all storms require your roar, some require your stillness. Especially now. The truth is already moving. You don't need to force it. You don't need to chase fairness. Karma isn't sleeping. It's just subtle, patient, and far more precise than we ever give it credit for. Right now, the universe is orchestrating a shift behind the scenes, one that will restore the balance you might feel was stolen from you. But here's the catch: if you get pulled into the chaos, if you react too quickly or let your energy spiral into anger or fear, you delay that process. The law of cause and effect doesn't need a helper. It needs space. Energetically, this moment is about becoming the calm eye of the storm. And I know that's easier said than done. But staying centered doesn't mean you're weak. It means you trust a bigger process. It means you're no longer wasting your precious life force trying to convince people who were never ready to meet you at your frequency. You can be aware of what they did without letting it define your vibration. You can know the betrayal happened and still choose peace as your response. In tarot, this is where the wheel of fortune turns. The wheel reminds us that nothing stays the same. Highs become lows, and lows transform into new heights. If you try to control it, you miss the beauty of divine timing. But if you stand firm in your integrity, the wheel starts to turn in your favor. You begin to feel the karmic rhythm realign, not by pushing, but by releasing. This is where spiritual self-care becomes your anchor. It's not about rituals that look perfect on the outside. It's about doing the simple things that keep your field clean, your heart open, and your energy stable. Drink warm water with lemon in the morning, not just for your body, but to energetically clear the residue of resentment. Bitterness lives in the liver, and when we don't release it, it fogs our clarity. Let each sip be a silent message to your system: I am letting go. I am safe now. Breathe. And not just the kind of breath that gets you through the day. Practice fire breathing or deep diaphragmatic breathing while listening to solfeggio frequencies, especially 741 Hz. That tone resonates with cellular cleansing and emotional detox. It doesn't require hours. Just a few intentional minutes to bring your nervous system back to center. And then, journal. Not for answers, but for release. For 5 quiet minutes, write this one sentence: I choose peace, and I trust the universe to handle the rest. Let that phrase become your anchor. Every day. Let it remind you that your power doesn't lie in how loud you can bite, lives in how deeply you can stay grounded when everything around you is trying to pull you out of yourself. This part of your journey isn't about proving your worth. It's about protecting it. Not with defense. With dignity. The kind of dignity that says, I don't need to be understood by everyone. I just need to be honest with myself. Let your calm be the closure. Let your stillness be the statement. That's how you rise above the mess without becoming a part of it. And trust me, the universe is already making sure the truth finishes the work for you. Sometimes the hardest lesson isn't about letting go of someone, it's about accepting that the people we thought were permanent were only meant to be temporary. And Leo, I know how deeply you love. You don't just give affection, you give loyalty. You open your heart fully, and when you love for real. But in that, there's also a quiet vulnerability. Because not everyone deserves that kind of access to your soul. And not everyone knows how to hold the kind of loyalty you give without using it as leverage. At this point in your journey, after betrayal and the slow uncovering of truth, you might feel raw. Like the ground you once stood on has shifted. And in a way it has. But this isn't the end of your story. It's the turning point. What if I told you that everything that cracked open inside you was never meant to break you, but to make room? Space. For something new. Someone new. The kind of love, support, and connection that doesn't come with hidden expectations or half-spoken judgments. This is where the idea of your soul family comes in. I'm not just talking about best friends or partners. I'm talking about people who feel like home not because they share your blood, but because they match your frequency. Because they listen without waiting to speak. Because they see your growth, not as a threat, but as an invitation. These are the ones who walk beside you, not in front of you or behind you. And here's the truth. They can only appear once the noise of toxic ties starts to fade. Leo energy is centered in the heart. It's generous, warm, but also incredibly discerning when it's allowed to trust itself again. And now, more than ever, you're being asked to choose again. Who you trust. Who you let into your sacred space. Who gets access to your dreams, your energy, your truth. You get to build that circle now, not based on shared history, but on shared intention. Physically and energetically, this week is about grounding back into your own power. The color garnet deep red, rooted, strong carries the frequency of stability, self-trust, and emotional cleansing. Wearing it, visualizing it, or meditating with it can help realign your sense of internal safety. It reminds you that your value doesn't shrink just because someone else couldn't see it. In fact, it's time to stop waiting for anyone to validate you. You are already enough as you are, and that is where the healing begins. In daily life, this healing shows up in small, powerful choices. Choose foods that cool and soothe rather than trigger inflammation. Leafy greens, calming teas, hydration. Choose quiet strength over oversharing, especially in environments where your trust has been broken before. Protect your plans the way you would protect a seed not yet ready to sprout. And financially, begin to separate your energy from those who once drained it. Whether that means closing an account, canceling a shared subscription, or simply not accepting financial advice from someone who doesn't walk the talk, it matters. Energetic boundaries are not just spiritual, they're practical, too. And in love? You don't need to keep explaining your worth. You don't need to be understood to be valuable. The right person will hear you without needing translation. They won't ask you to shrink. They'll celebrate the way you shine. But that only happens when you stop bending for the ones who never even tried to meet you halfway. So here's my invitation to you: if you felt that shift in your soul, if you know it's time to call in your true soul family, say it. Let the universe hear you. Write it in the comments: I choose the soul frequency that matches mine. That small declaration holds a massive vibration. Because you're not just healing, you're becoming the version of yourself that no longer settles. And everything real begins there. Some pain doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to initiate you. Leo, what you've just been through wasn't just a betrayal, it was a sacred threshold. A line between who you used to be and who you're becoming. And yes, it burned. It hurt in ways you didn't expect, especially because it came from people you never imagined would hurt you. But now that you've walked through that fire, can you feel it? Something in you has shifted. You're no longer waiting to be saved. You're learning to lead yourself out. You're not the same. And that's the point. In numerology, the number 11 is known as the number of awakening. Not surface-level inspiration but deep, inner, irreversible transformation. It often appears during life transitions that break you open, not to punish you, but to reveal what can't come with you anymore. When you start seeing 1111, 777, or 888 showing up around you on clocks, receipts, license plates, it's a sign that your higher self is fully engaged, aligning your path and shedding the layers that no longer fit. You might feel tired without knowing why. You might feel disconnected from people you once couldn't go a day without. You may find silence more soothing than noise. These are not symptoms of weakness. These are signs of spiritual rewiring. Your soul is building something new inside of you, and like any renovation, it first needs to clear out the old. You're not just recovering. You're rebuilding. You're becoming. And everything you've lost in this process? It's making space for the version of you who will never again be controlled by guilt, fear, or obligation. You are emerging, and this time, nothing is borrowed. Everything is truly yours. You were never meant to be defined by the people who betrayed you. Their deception was not a reflection of your worth but a revelation of their own fears, wounds, and limitations. The truth is, what they tried to take from you, they could never carry. Not your light. Not your destiny. Not your divine inheritance. And now that truth is surfacing, not to punish you, but to free you. Let this moment be the soft ending to a chapter that once held confusion, pain, and silence. You no longer need to beg for clarity or chase closure. What was done in secret is now exposed by spiritual law. What was whispered behind your back has been heard by heaven. And what was stolen from you will be returned tenfold in ways your heart can finally hold. The betrayal was real, yes, but so is your healing. And so is your rise. Not because you fought back with bitterness, but because you chose to honor your inner light more than their shadow games. That's where your power is secured, quiet, and undeniable. You now get to redefine what family means. You get to choose your tribe by vibration, not obligation. You get to protect your peace with boundaries made of grace, not guilt. And you get to remember, just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they're aligned with your future. Your soul family is waiting, and so is the version of you who knows they're worthy of clean love, open truth, and radiant beginnings. So here's the gentle invitation I leave you with. What if this betrayal was actually a sacred initiation? What if this heartbreak was heaven's way of nudging you toward your throne? What if today was the first page of a new story you get to write on your own terms? If this message speaks to your soul, I invite you to write it in the comments as a sacred declaration. I have seen the truth and I choose freedom. Let the universe see your intention. Let your energy ripple. Let your courage echo. Thank you deeply for spending this time with me. If this video reminded you of your strength, your worth, or your divine protection, don't forget to like this message to anchor the energy. Comment your truth to seal it in your timeline. And subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness to keep walking this path with spiritual wisdom, clarity, and love guiding your way. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the light you were forced to hide is the very light the world needs now. You don't need to chase closure anymore. You are the closure. You are the upgrade. You are the light. And I see you. I honor you. And I'll meet you in the next chapter. Until then, keep shining, and choose yourself every single time.